Why don't lesbians want Pete Buttigieg to be president? Is Donald Trump king of the Jews? Pete Buttigieg, otherwise known as Mayor Pete, the openly gay mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and presidential candidate who claims to be the first openly gay presidential candidate. Now, the reason I say that is because Mayor Pete says we have obviously, based on the statistics of the number of so-called gay individuals living in the world today, that it's 10-15% of our population. Yeah, okay. Obviously, we've had other gay presidents who just weren't out of the closet. I'm pretty confident John F. Kennedy was straight. In fact, as much as it pains me to say this, I'm sure that Bill Clinton was mostly straight. Now, there is a picture that has become quite controversial that was hanging in the private residence of one Jeffrey Epstein, you know, the pedo sex trafficker, of Bill Clinton wearing high heels in a blue dress. Okay. There's a lot of talk about Barack Obama having had gay sexual encounters, and you would think that the president who so openly supported same-sex marriage and equality and gay rights and wanted legislation against gay hate crime, you would think that his little dalliances on the other side, he might want to wear that as a badge of honor. But nonetheless, Mayor Pete claims to be the first openly avowed, professing, practicing gay candidate. Well, you would think that the LBGT community would be just ecstatic that one of their own wants to not only represent them, but could literally sit in the office of the most powerful position in all of the world. But Politico, a publication not exactly known for being Trump-friendly, is reporting on Campbell Spencer, a lesbian and political consultant who moved to Washington, D.C. in the 1990s to work in the LBGTQ advocacy. She wooed gay and lesbian voters for Al Gore. She worked for a while in the Obama administration and now serves on the board of the LBGTQ Victory Fund, which this year offered its first ever presidential endorsement of a candidate, Pete Buttigieg. But Spencer herself will not be voting for Mayor Pete. She's quoted in the Politico as saying, "Mayor Pete, he's a trailblazer. One of these women who I think that we are way overdue for having a female president." So, though the organization she works for is endorsed Pete, other lesbians that she knows are not voting for him. They want a woman. They don't want Pete. They don't want hot dogs. They want tacos. Whatever happened to voting for people who were actually qualified to do the job? Why is the qualifier now their race, their gender, their orientation? Why are we turning America into some type of glorified lab rat experiment?
Hey, let's try socialism. I'll bet that'll work. It hasn't worked anywhere else on the planet, but I'll bet we could make it happen.
Yeah. And then there are those that so hate Donald Trump that no matter what he says or tweets, they don't even realize that once again they've been rolled and trolled.
The president is a raving lunatic. He is not well. Those are not my words. Those are the words of Andrew Gillum, the former Democratic mayor of Tallahassee, who came in second in last year's race for governor in Florida. He was echoing what has become mainstream thinking now about the mental health of the president of the United States during a week in which the president has said he is the king of the Jews, the second coming of God.
So really, when he made the comment, King of the Jews, you took it serious, that he was equating himself to the Messiah, Jesus Christ. And you have a TV show? You have people that tune into you to hear your viewpoint, your opinion, your insight? Really? That says a lot more about the low IQ of your TV viewers than it does your low IQ and not being able to process what Trump was saying was tongue-in-cheek. But then again, I understand you guys have a narrative over there, and the new narrative going into 2020, your new battle plan for victory is obviously Trump is crazy. And you're going to talk to every psychologist and sociopath that will repeat and tweet that narrative, hey, Trump is crazy.
If we could construct a psychiatric Frankenstein monster, we could not create a leader more dangerously mentally ill than Donald Trump. He's a paranoid, psychopathic narcissist who's divorced from reality and lashes out impulsively at his imagined enemies.
He lies because of his sociopathic tendencies that Dr. Gartner was talking about, that he lies in the way anybody who scams people does, that he's trying to sell an idea or a product by telling you something that's untrue. There's that lying. There's also the kind of lying he has that is, in a way, more serious, that he has a loose grip on reality.
If he was a paranoid schizophrenic and he was wearing a tinfoil hat, then he wouldn't be elected president. But he's just sane enough, as it were, to pass, but actually detached from reality, as Dr. Doda said, so that what is real is fluid. It's totally malleable according to his personality disorder.
Of a president who stands up and compares himself to a king, refers to himself as King of the Jews, refers to himself in a godlike way, turns to the heavens today and calls himself the chosen one. What is that?
Well, it's obviously grandiosity, but I want to make clear that there are a lot of grandiose people. There are a lot of people who are narcissistic. Donald Trump goes way beyond that. There is a fundamental way in which, as I said, he's empty. There's something fundamentally different about him from normal people. It's a psychotic-like state. The more you press him, the more you see how disorganized and empty he is.
Did you get a close look at those individuals just featured there and that little vignette of montage collage of expert psychiatric opinion of Donald Trump? Number one, not one of those doctors has ever actually personally examined Donald Trump. They've never sat down with him. They've never had a conversation with him. They've never actually interviewed him. Yet they are prepared to make a diagnosis on an individual that they never ever have had to actually meet or treat. Isn't there some type of medical malpractice in doing such? Does that give you any confidence in psychology or psychiatry that just their impression of someone, they immediately form a diagnosis and already have in their mind what ought to be done to that individual as far as treatment and medication, and yet they've not even performed test one? Does that give you any confidence that if you were in need of counseling, psychiatric care, to sit down with and talk to a psychologist, are you worried that they would already form an opinion of you based on the way you restlessly sit in the waiting room area? Aha, this person is obviously in a highly agitated state. We must find the most potent narcotics we have and put them on it immediately so they're no longer a danger to themselves. It might be the fact that you're just running late and you've got other things to do, and you're already 40 minutes late for this appointment that the doctor has apparently let run over or has lost track of the time, and creeping you out a little bit that they're watching you on hidden camera somewhere to kind of gauge your personality before you ever walk into their office and have a conversation. And yet that's what these guys are doing to Donald Trump and now labeling him. He's crazy. He's insane. He's mentally not fit. Mentally not fit. Joe Biden, most of the time, doesn't even know where he is. Seriously. He does a campaign event the other day in New Hampshire and kept referring to it as Vermont. And even when his staffers corrected him, he kept insisting he was in Vermont. Crazy old Joe, look around, see some pine trees. Well, it must be in Vermont. I mean, Joe Biden is more than a walking gaffe machine. I mean, he looks like he's going to go into a coma in the middle of his own speech. Donald Trump the other day stood up there and fielded questions from the press for over 2 hours. No script, no teleprompter, just stood there, calm, cool, collected, and just took question after question after question after question. What other president we ever had that did that? You know, Barack Obama was the darling of the liberal left lying legacy corporate corrupt media in this country. Yet he was very distant with the media, very guarded. Donald Trump, every day when he's leaving the White House to go somewhere, he'll stop and talk to the press line gaggle of reporters. When he does a press conference, it can go on for hours and he just freely engages. Does that strike you as somebody who's mentally not up to it? Not to mention the circles he ran around the European leaders at the G7. Of course, the lying legacy corporate corrupt mainstream propaganda media isn't reporting that, isn't talking about that. No, nay, nay, So, he's crazy. This is the narrative you're going to go with. This is what you're going to take into 2020. Yet you've never actually spoken with him. You've never, ever engaged with him, yet you already have your diagnosis formulated based on this is what I studied in a book, and this is what I was taught, and this is what I was trained. As a pastor, I've done a lot of counseling. I've been in the ministry 30 years. I have worked with licensed counselors and psychologists and actual doctors of psychiatry. And I can tell you, there are individuals in that field I have respect for, and there are individuals in that field that I wonder, and I have walked away shaking my head thinking, thank God I don't need them for help, because they need more help than the people they're trying to help. A family member of mine recently required some special care and counseling. I accompanied them on one of those visits. I'm looking at the counselor. I'm looking at her ill-kept, cluttered office, the stains in the ceiling where it had leaked, her disheveled appearance, sweater that didn't fit, pants that it looked like they hadn't seen an iron like ever, her hair kind of pulled back. She's staring at her papers on the desk, completely disinterested in my family member, yet asking questions, and then at the end telling me, they're going to need some more counsel. We just didn't get to... I'm thinking, you are the last person on this planet that ought to be counseling anyone. And now we supposedly have this list of growing psychiatrists who've never talked to the president, have never talked to the president's personal physicians or doctors, yet are out there offering their expert medical opinion. And of course, if you've ever watched a courtroom drama, whether real as it's actually unfolding on live television or a movie, we all know that both the prosecution and the defense will present psychiatrists. And isn't it amazing? You can have two psychiatrists, maybe very reputable in their field, known in their field, and yet they can be completely in disagreement with the assessment of the accused. One says they were perfectly aware of what was happening. Another will say, nope, didn't have a clue. And the jury is supposed to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. But here are these psychologists who've never met the president. He's crazy. You got Lawrence O'Donnell. He's crazy. Listen to what these experts say. Really? Because the doctor's own physicians and counselors And psychiatrists have all said he is beyond mentally fit. This is a young man, but I know. Over there at the other news channel, what I now refer to as Airport Terminal TV, because that's the only place now you can watch CNN. Nobody actually wastes time watching CNN in their own homes anymore. So the only reason they have any type of viewership or television audience is because it's mandatory viewing in every airport terminal in the country. So if you get stuck in an airport, you have to watch the network formerly known as CNN, now referred to forever by me as Airport Terminal TV. Chris Cuomo, who instead of talking about what an incredibly mentally fit, strong, healthy older president we have, well, obviously there's something wrong. He's not taking his job seriously. He's not getting old fast enough. And on that note, who's the one that's crazy? Hey, thanks for watching the video today. Give us a big thumbs up and a like. Share this to your other social media platforms. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. If you're a new subscriber, welcome. We're so glad to have you here. And thank you so much for helping us get our subscriptions up and starting to move up in the algorithm here in YouTube. And make sure you smack the bell to get notification of my next rant.